Hi, Kenny.
Or you go by Rob or Robert?
Yeah, I guess my wife's got me going by Robert these days. Robert Kecseg from Irving, lived there about 15 years. I'm part of a group now that Pastor Broden started called Constitutional Defenders of Texas. And what we're concerned about is people who take the oath of office, people who represent us like yourself, complying with the Constitution. And you mentioned earlier about Justice Roberts couldn't find a way to vote against or found it to be constitutional. I got an easier one for you. I'm trying to understand why during this whole campaign and all the different representatives who are running, or candidates who are running, talked about being a conservative.
Right.
Everyone's a conservative, everyone's a conservative. I'm trying to understand constitutionally how so many conservatives were willing to vote for the National Defense Authorization Act.
Because we had the chairman of the committee explain to us that that was within the Constitution, and the supposed trampling of those rights was not covered by that part of the bill, and that a separate piece of legislation would need to be passed to specifically address that, because this was an appropriations bill. And in an appropriations bill, you're not supposed to, according to the Constitution, not supposed to be able to alter other parts of the law simply through the appropriated process. So Mac Thornberry, who sits on that committee, testified before our conference that this was not the fact, that this was not in violation of the Constitution.
Right. So the simple words that are in the Bill of Rights that says that you have to be charged and you have to have a jury trial and all those things, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment, all of those things have been eliminated by this.
I do not believe that that's the case. Well, I would have never voted for it had I believed that that was the case.
Well, it was interesting to find that on the Senate floor, Rand Paul was begging for votes and got 13 votes to vote against it. And all of the conservatives in the Republican Party in North Texas voted for it. There's already an injunction against it by a federal judge that just occurred in May, who found it unconstitutional.
I'm very interested in seeing how that federal judge rules, because we do not believe that we violated the Constitution. I do not believe that I've cast any vote on the House floor that violates the Constitution.
Okay, well,
and was not convinced that it did violate the Constitution.
I just wanted to also make a contrast. What I found very interesting, again, with the conservatives from North Texas voting for it, it was Rachel Maddow on MSNBC who was quite disturbed by it and really ridiculed the President of the United States for standing in front of the Constitution and tell us that he was going to create a new legal regime. And if you look at that YouTube, folks, it's quite revealing that somebody from the far left would be concerned about their civil liberties and the constitutional violations. The point I just want to make is, it's very clear that people can be arrested on the suspicion that they're supporting some terrorist organization. And on the suspicion. In this country, we charge people with a charge when they've created a violation. And I'm just saying, I think that's the simple part to see the difference, whether it's constitutional or not. Anyway, our group is going to make every effort to hold representatives accountable to constitutional issues. And, this one and tons of others that are out there. So
I'd be very interested at any time you think that I'm casting or about to cast a vote that you think's in violation of the Constitution. I'd welcome hearing from you.
Okay, well, I just started tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the comment that you made about Congressman Amash from Michigan.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up because I was pretty sure I didn't want to be wrong.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
We're all here.
I didn't want to be in error on this, so I looked it up. Amash and Smith proposed an amendment that would have eliminated indefinite detention under that NDAA that I talked about earlier. And it was the GOP that voted down that amendment that allows the government to indefinitely detain people. And that's what I'm saying. How can we find that to be part of the Constitution?
We have not found yet, and Mr. Amash in conference admitted that he did not know of an instance where this was a violation, where this would be a violation. But the other side of that question was the question of giving rights to a terrorist bomber that steps off of an airplane and giving that person the rights of an American citizen, when that person clearly was here to harm Americans and does not deserve the rights of Americans.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about American citizens being indefinitely detained under the suspicion that they might cause a problem. That is what that amendment was about. And this article right here states that the GOP voted it down. And that's what I'm talking about. Conservatives voted down an amendment to prohibit indefinite detention. So as the law stands, you are staking the claim that the law stands and that it is constitutional to indefinitely detain people.
I'm taking the position that that bill was an appropriations bill. And the place to address that bill and that civil right was not in an appropriations bill, but would be in a separate bill that Mr. Amash was told in the conference that if he introduced the bill and took it through the Judiciary Committee, would be taken to the floor and voted on.
Well, then everybody should have voted no on the appropriations bill until it gets separated. Because that's this whole game in Washington, is I go and put this one on my bill that I want, and you vote with me, and then we go and do the other bill, and we do the same thing over there. We
It was on the
crisscross.
defense appropriations bill,
Yeah.
and I vote for the defense appropriations bill and the veterans
And at the
appropriations.
same time, you voted to indefinitely detain people
And I
who
disagree
haven't
that I
been
did
charged.
that. I disagree with you that I did that.
Well, of course you did. It was part of it.
Gentlemen.